Hello everybody, good morning, happy Monday. We are going live today with Michali, as usual, on a Monday. We're just going to wait for some of you to show up, and for Michali, of course, and we will get started. Hello Leah and Rally. I'm just going to wait for Michali to join. Hello Michali, let me invite you. Good morning everybody, thank you for joining.
Hello.
Okay. Hi Michali, good morning, how are you?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Nice to see
Likewise.
you.
All right, you're gonna be the clock watcher today because I have to turn to see the time. So you're gonna give
I
me
already forgot, Fay.
You already
I
forgot.
already forgot.
You
My
don't
job.
remember when it's time to be I gotta go.
I know. Okay, I'll be the clock watcher. So let's dive right into the question. Um, So the question is, my 18-year-old Hasidic son is in Israel for yeshiva. We live in Brooklyn. He's going to be starting therapy. We're sending him. And I'm wondering what my role should be. Do I ask him about his sessions? Do I keep tabs on how it's going? Do I wait and see what he shares on his own? It's a great question.
Yeah,
It's a really, really great question. It's a boundary question, right? It's
exactly.
like a boundary.
Yeah, and I also just felt like it kind of shows the progression, I feel like, in our community regarding therapy and regarding teenagers or very young adults being in therapy, and the willingness of parents to encourage that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the step, which I think is so much more beautiful, is the self-awareness of the parent to recognize that they have a place and they need to know what their place is. So I just felt like
Exactly.
there was so much that made me happy about this question. I was like, we need to address it just for that reason. So
Yeah.
I'm proud of this parent. I feel like I just feel very lovingly towards this parent because I think it's such a mature, kind, sensitive, and smart question.
I'm still with you. I think there's just so much respect even in just the fact that the question is being asked.
Yes.
So much respect, care, and sensitivity.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that the answer is going to vary depending on what kind of relationship that this person has with their son. There's like these general universal boundaries, but then there's very personal, subjective, unique boundaries that are created from one relationship to the next, and it looks different. And it's not just, oh, if it's abnormal, then it's this set of boundaries, and if it's normal, it's that set. It's really like, because every single person is unique, right? That means every single relationship is unique. And because every relationship is unique, then boundaries for each relationship are going to have to be unique, in addition to having some basic universal ones. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that when it comes to the unique boundaries here, then it's going to depend on who the son is, what his struggles are, who the mom is, what her struggles are. Or, I mean, it doesn't even say mom. It just says
right.
okay, so it'll be father.
I imagined it was a mom, but then I quickly caught myself and I was like, this is just a parent and not necessarily a mom. So
yeah, so I don't know who the parents are, but I would say that, even if the parent is paying for their child to go, if the child is under the age of 18, then the parents are still considered like the legal guardians of the child, right? They're responsible for the child, at least according to American law. And so they can be involved in the therapy. Now, if you speak to any therapist who works with teenagers, a lot of these therapists will tell the parents that I'm not going to be sharing every single thing that happens in therapy because that's going to erode the trust that I build with this teenager. Oftentimes, issues of safety. So whether there's an issue of safety with the person or from the person to other people, that's the kind of thing that might be brought up to parents of teenagers. And additionally, if the teenager gives consent for, to bring the parent in about a particular issue, that might be something the parents are invited, for the therapy. I think that once a child becomes 18 years of age, then legally it really shifts. So the child has complete rights to confidentiality, which means that legally the parents do not have to be included in any of the information with the treatment. That being said, I think that it's okay if parents are paying for therapy and periodically check in with their kids, as long as there's no strings attached, as long as there's a lot of space created where, and I would maybe say have a conversation with your son ahead of time, right? Going in and saying like, hey, I know we're sending you to therapy and I don't know what you're comfortable with, and I just want to have a conversation with you about it. I want to be helpful and supportive to you in any way that I can. I don't know what you're comfortable with. Are you okay with me checking in with you periodically? Do you want to have like weekly debriefs, after your session? Do you want me to not mention it to you unless there's like a practical issue of like, I need to change the credit card or whatever, and see what your son says. And again, that's also going to depend on like who your son is and what his struggles are, right? So I don't know what his emotional capacity is. I don't know where he's at, but those are just like some ideas off the top of my head of what I would say.
Yeah, I love that. And so you totally caught my mistake, because when I heard 18, like to me that was still like beyond, like before the adult turning. Like I don't know why, like it didn't register in my mind, but like 18,
Baby, yeah.
you're legally an
Yeah.
adult. Like I just totally like bypassed that train of thought in my brain. And that's true, but I love what you said, and that was something that came to my mind as well, which is ask the child or young adult what they would like. So I'm assuming if you're having this question, there's some sort of a relationship between you and the child, and there's a desire to maintain that relationship and not let therapy get in the way of it, or your desire to be involved get in the way. So having that conversation, I think, is super important, and I think that applies to even if this is a teenager. So yes, as a teen, like a younger 13, 14-year-old being in therapy, you do have more of a right to know, but I still think that maintaining that level of privacy for the child is super important if you want the therapy to be beneficial. So having that like very direct, open, transparent communication can go such a long way.
Yeah. And I think also creating space for changing minds. So meaning like if, if the parent's having this proactive conversation with the son, saying like, if at any point you change your mind, we'll be happy to pivot with you. And we understand that this is a process. If there's any way that we can be supportive other than sending you to therapy, we can continue to talk about it. And, if you want us to be more involved now, and then you change your mind, just let us know and we'll respect that. And if you want us to be less involved and then you change your mind, we'll respect that too. So just like kind of giving options and creating space for changing minds, I think is also just kind of like takes the pressure down a few notches.
Exactly. Yeah, I love what you said. I love that. I love the concept of always having an exit strategy where you're not locked in, and like even modeling that for your child is so beautiful. And I think something that just came to mind also is like a parent might feel like locked out of this part of their child's life and concerned because of that. And I feel like really it's the reverse, in the sense of like, this is your opportunity to allow your child to grow and strive and develop. And knowing every little thought that might like trigger you in some way, and it's really not necessary, because these are just developing brains and minds in the making, and not necessarily anything to really set you off or make you really concerned. And that's why you're sending your child to therapy. So like there's a reason you don't want to be overly involved, for your benefit, for your child's benefit, for the therapeutic results benefit. And I think that can help you really be okay. Like, it's one thing to say like, I'm okay with whatever boundaries my child wants, but it's another thing to really be at peace with that, and your child will pick up on that. So how do we really get in touch with that place of being okay with what the other person decides? I think by really understanding that we do not need to be overly involved. Again, I'm not a parent, but I just feel like this applies to other relationships as well, like letting go of some of that control.
Yeah, I think the parental role is really tough, because on the one hand, you are controlling certain things, right? Like you control what your children eat, or when they go to sleep, or what schools you send them to, or, how much money you can afford to give to them, or, like there's so many things that as parents we do control, but then there's like an infinite amount of things that we can't control, right? And so I think that even the idea of involvement is going to vary from relationship to relationship, right? And I think that when there are really solid boundaries that are like fitting for the relationship, then it oftentimes like works where the involvement is a perfect amount, right? And I think, like, to your point, I'm kind of reminded of this like little interaction that parents oftentimes have with their kids, where, like, if they're playing with their kids on the floor, right, and there's something that's stuck that the kid can't open, or like something broke and the kid's trying to like click the pieces back together, whatever it is, right, a lot of times our natural response is going to be to kind of swoop in, take the pieces and click them back together, or to, open something that they need help with, especially if we're in a rush, or especially if we see them struggling and they're just making this kind of faces, right? But one of the best gifts that we can give our kids, and I know I say this in a lot of our conversations, the best gift, so
Yeah.
you can make a lot of reels based on that.
A list.
Yeah, best
1,000
gift, best gift, best gift.
you can give your child.
Exactly. But here's another gift you could give your child, is teach them to take a pause and take a few breaths and allow them to figure it out, and and give them the space to say, I need help, or I'm going to figure this out on my own. And what that does is it teaches them that they have like a bunch of different tools that they can access. They can foster their own sense of autonomy and independence and resourcefulness, and figure out how to get those things unstuck. Or they can tap into the skill of learning how to ask for help. But when we swoop in and we take care of it for the child, they don't get to have those experiences that can be so empowering for that child. And so I think that, I do agree with you that an 18-year-old is still a child. And just because, it's one day past their 18th birthday, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden magically they turn into an adult. I call them baby adults or infant adults, right? They're just starting to learn what it means to be an adult. And I think that, when the parent is having a hard time letting go, then I think one of the things that they can do is, even with the child or with themselves, take a deep breath and say, I'm giving my child the gift of resourcefulness, of autonomy, and learning how to ask for help. I'm going to let them know that I'm a great resource and a great place to ask for help, but I'm going to give them the space to figure it out. And telling yourself as the parent that what you're doing is helping your child through giving them that gift, it can really, really help with that very natural discomfort of like, my baby needs me, and I just want to nurture them and hold them, and kind of like never cut the umbilical cord kind of thing. So I think that can be done in that space.
Yeah, and I think the example that you gave is such a helpful imagery. So like, even if the parent is having trouble doing this, if you recognize the similarity it holds to when your child's an infant and they're struggling with like the blocks, even though this seems like such a bigger life, who knows what type of situation, most likely it's not. It's something bigger than the blocks, but it's not, like do or die, and something that's really urgent. And like, recognize that, like bring that image to your head, like you said, sitting on the floor with your child and letting them struggle and knowing that you're there for them. And one of the things that came to mind as you're saying that is the concept of like frustration tolerance, which I think many children have, because adults want to always swoop in because they're in a rush or because they don't like to see the child struggle at all. And that leads, and then the child doesn't have that frustration tolerance, which is the ability to tolerate being frustrated, feeling stuck, and being able to tap into our inner strength and inner wisdom and inner resilience to figure it out and to even know how to ask for help. So I love that. Where are we?
Thank you.
We are right.
We are perfect.
Okay, amazing, Michali.
9:55.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Michali. We will see you next week. My pleasure.
Thank you. I will see you next week, and I'll see everyone in OK Clarity tomorrow night.
Yes, I'm looking forward to
that takeover.
Yes. Feedback amazing. Even other professionals were inspired. They're like, I loved it, and I'm down for this. Like, feedback on your live and other lives as well. So I just want to say that.
Yay! I'm so excited. That's amazing. All right, well, I'll see everybody soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.